And welcome back to the Planet Paintball podcast, brought to you by 1023 Sportswear and Southwest Paintball in Bayfield, Colorado. We'll keep it short tonight. Well, the intro short. I got Jackson with me from Wrecking Crew, New York Wrecking Crew. How you doing, man?
Doing great. The feeling of winning World Cup is still hanging around. So, but getting started for the off season, preparation for next year. First time doing a podcast, so thanks for having me on. Let's do it.
Glad I could have you on for the first one, man. Most important question of the night is, are you going to be at the 10 Man?
The 10 Man. It's possible.
Okay.
Tommy Hawkins from Wrecking Crew. He lives right there.
Yeah.
I go and play with him sometimes over there. He's got a team, and maybe he needs some guys. Maybe he can convince me, but I kind of stay out of the 10 Mans a little bit.
Okay.
I travel too much as it is. And I'm sure it'll be fun at some point. I'll get into those. But for right now, I'm just kind of doing everything I can to get to my goals, and the 5-man baseball stuff. So
fair enough.
If I go over there and, sacrifice a weekend and then, there's all this cheating going on, I don't know if it's worth it.
10 Man. It is 10 Man.
Yeah. But it sounds like fun, and maybe I'll show up. Who knows?
Well, so sorry, still got the work boots on from the day. So where are you, coming to us from? I guess let's start there.
Yep, I'm in Johnson City, Tennessee, East Tennessee. So it's basically North Carolina, basically Virginia. It's just like 30, 20 minutes away from those.
Okay.
Tennessee's a long state.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I'm actually not too far away from your home field. I've been there a few times. And we don't have a whole lot of paintball, where I'm at. We got Team Postal. I know you've had a podcast with them, with Martin from Postal before.
Yep.
And, those are my local guys. I used to play with them.
Nice.
But kind of have to drive around or fly to find some really good paintball, find a really good team that's going to go, do what it takes to go where they can.
Yeah. So what started that decision? Like, hey, I'm going to travel and go as far as I can with this.
Well, like when you're playing with people that are close by, you get limited because, a paintball team is made up of people in different situations. And to be really successful, you need to find people that are very like-minded, as committed as you, and, people that you like too. So you end up having to go far to find a good fit. Yeah, that's what got me onto New York Wrecking Crew. Is they're a program that, I relate to, I fit in with, because we all really care, and, we do a lot of sacrifice and do what it takes.
Nice. So take us through the paintball journey. How'd you find paintball?
How did I find paintball? Well, me and my older brother, he's about 5 years older. We lived, where we had some woods out in the backyard, and had a little laser tag from Kmart thing that didn't really work outside in the woods where we were trying to make bunkers, and probably more meant to be used indoors. But we had the backyard set up for paintball. And then, I didn't know about paintball. And one Christmas we got, $25 Walmart paintball guns.
Nice.
So we did a couple years of just playing in the backyard. The neighbors ended up having a church group that played in different properties out in the woods and, different areas. Did that for a couple years. And then, you find magazines and you find other places to play around you. But it was really this one instance where we were going to a family vacation in Niagara Falls. And on our way back, I was trying to convince my parents to stop by a field, stop by a pro shop, do some window shopping. And we just stumbled upon the International Amateur Open, the IAO.
Man.
Yeah. Which is like comparable to World Cup.
Yeah.
It's just divisionals, I think, at that time. And this was like 2003. A huge trade show like World Cup. And, we got there and, going through, getting all the goodies at the different, trade show tents, watching paintball and airball. If I wasn't already hooked and like knew that I wanted to be on a tournament team and eventually go pro from the magazines I was reading, then it definitely stuck from going there and seeing the paintball, what it's like to go to a tournament and how big it is, how cool it is. Got some trauma head sports, VHSs that we watched for hours, kind of on repeat. And let's see, after that, about the same time, a local field opened up just about 15 minutes from me. A kid, he was about 2 years older than me. He had a bunch of friends that started a team, and his dad, made a paintball field and kind of funded the team. So we played there for a little bit, and, they were starting to They needed a couple more players. My older brother, who was 5 years, 4.5 years older than me, he was a shoe-in, to kind of fit in with those guys. But I was kind of like a charity case, I think.
Okay. The tag along,
Lucky to
huh?
get on that team. Yeah, so that was a great situation. We played CFOAs. They were huge back in those days. And
Yeah.
so 2004, I was like 12 years old at that time. And yeah, I got to play for free. He covered everything. We just had to go and ref on Saturdays. So that was awesome. We did that for a couple years. And when that team fell apart, just because the owner's son lost interest, so that team fell apart. But the ones of us that were looking to take the next step and go to national X-ball tournaments, we had to end up going to drive 3 hours or so to look for tryouts at places like PBC Greenville, PBC Greensboro. We had to go to the Carolinas. This is a long story, by the way, but
Go for
went
it.
to a tryout for Gridlock.
Okay.
So this would be 2007. Yeah, after trauma, they'd won a World Cup
Yeah.
or so, and Gridlock was huge. That whole program is huge, especially with the community, all the teams going to the CFOAs. It's kind of the pinnacle of that. But I go to this tryout with two of my friends, and my really good friend at the time, he ended up being my best man in my wedding. He made the team, but we didn't. So like once I got that rejection, it was sad. I was like, what am I going to do now? A couple weeks later, we ended up finding another team to try out for. And even him, he came with us. And
Okay.
there was 5 of us. We tried out for Team Infectious, if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
From back in the
Yeah.
CFOA days.
Yeah. Yeah. So tried out for them, and all my friends made it. But again, like I thought I had a pretty good day, but I didn't make it. I got rejected. It felt like shit. It felt like, my dreams were moving on without me, and I didn't have a way to continue playing. I was only 15, couldn't go anywhere and make tryouts or stay at a hotel room by myself. So I thought paintball was done. A couple days later, end up getting a message that I'm invited to the practice squad. A couple
Okay.
guys on the practice squad. Have you ever heard of any practice squads recently working out?
No.
No, they don't. They don't.
Not unless
kind
it's
of-
full of a bunch of old guys who don't want to play events. But
Yeah.
that's pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a fun practice squad. But yeah, there's not a lot of them. Even if you're on a roster, you end up kind of being on the borderline of, is the cost and the commitment worth staying on the team if you're not getting playing time? So as a practice squad, it's really a long road. And through that experience, it kind of really got me into like a work ethic, started getting into high school, got me back into high school football so I could get in the weight room, get more athletics to get better at paintball. And even like running sprints on the driveway, like literally every single day, whether it's snow or rain, like do a little warm up and then 4 uphill 70-yard sprints every single day for like 6 months, that type of stuff.
They'll build some speed really quick.
I mean, you can build it. You can build it. It takes a little while, but it is possible. That's kind of I think an under trained for thing for paintball.
Speed.
Yeah. People go to the gym and maybe they lift to get bigger or to get stronger. But if you want to be a good paintball player, no matter what your position is, being faster helps a lot. You're going to get shot less. You're going to be a more effective attacker. Like the best paintball player, arguably, is the fastest paintball player ever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Even if you're not going to get a ton faster, then just getting a little bit faster is worth some of the time you would spend on snap shooting or other fundamentals, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think speed is one of those easy things to work on, but really hard at the same time, right? Like it's easy in the sense like there's not some special machine you need to do. You just need to burst run over and over again.
Over and over again. Yeah.
Burst running over and over again sucks, whether it's on a hill or a flat incline. Like, running's just hard mentally after a while.
Running's hard, but I think the sprinting is kind of fun. You don't have to sprint so far that you get fatigued or tired. You just got to do it and be explosive when you're doing it. I think a lot of guys will train for paintball or try to get in shape by running a mile or longer distances. That'll help a little bit, but it's not going to help near as much as actual doing 20-yard sprints.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Well, that's really what you need for paintball, right? because
Yeah,
you're not going further than 20 yards at any given moment, except,
absolutely.
well, yeah, 20 yards is
Probably
about the
even 10
max.
yards.
Yeah, I was about to say 10 yards at a time is probably the most you're going to run, right? What's the field?
Or you get into your
20 or
dive.
140? Yeah,
The field is, 50 yards in length,
yeah. So,
and the width is 30.
yeah, yeah, take 5 off that, you're in 25, right? So, that's all you really need to do is run 25 as fast as possible.
Yeah. Man, this makes me remember on that team I told you about where we were the kids and reffing, our first team. We got a coach at one point, and he was having us doing some pretty wild stuff. This one play we practiced, we had 5 in the back center, all guns up.
Okay.
And then we would like waterfall style breakout. Like the whoever our snake runner would be, he'd be in the front of the flying bee, like right there in front of the home, shoot for a couple seconds, and then run to the snake. And then there'd be 2 other guys shooting for a couple more seconds and then break out. That oddly didn't not work. It was kind
Yeah.
of fun. It's kind of dope. But on
That's
that
a
team,
very southeast like strategy right there, right? 5 guns up and then run.
but on that team, another thing we did was this coach had us line up and basically run sprints and see who was the fastest. And before that, I was the one on the D side. I was the youngest, the smallest. I'd go run and play the front. But after we did these sprints, because these other guys were, a couple more years past puberty, they were like, I was 12, they were 14 or 15. I was the slowest. And it kind of reminded me of, in the movie Pineapple Express, at the start of it, they're testing weed on Bill Hader.
Yeah.
And once they see how weird he's acting and he's like butter on flapjacks, and then they stamp the illegal on it,
Yeah.
And that's how I felt when we did that sprinting drill. They stamped home player on me, which now we know that like the home players it's not the worst player on the team.
No.
There's
Super critical spot, right?
yeah. But at the time and at that age, it kind of seemed like it.
Yeah. No, I get
So,
that. Like, growing up in that time, like the small little kids were always the front guys and that was like your identity. And then like all of a sudden this guy took it away from you, right?
right.
And you had to develop a new set of skills.
Yeah. Right. It was right when sideline, like X-ball coaching or X-ball started, sideline coaching started. So you really wanted those fast guys on your team, and the back spots were like the people that had the money and were
normally
funding the team. Yeah, but that was another instance of like rejection and made me want to get better. Kind of my path of getting better was through fitness, through strength training, through speed training, and now I'm a strength coach at high school.
Nice.
So I'm grateful for all that, and what that developed for me as a paintball player too, and just like regular life, the work ethic and all that stuff. So yeah, where are we at now? Let's see.
We were in infectious.
Oh, infectious. Yeah. Yeah. So through that whole year of trying to come back from the bottom of the practice squad, like the lowest rung on the ladder, and by the end of that year, we were playing Gridlock and beating them, and I was like a starter on that team. We won the last CFWA X-Ball of the year. So that was a cool, low to high experience.
Yeah.
From there, went to CEP, the old iteration of CEP, when
Cross-eyed paintball.
Cross-eyed paintball, yeah. They had a huge divisional program.
So, yeah.
And those guys eventually combined all their divisions and went pro. But I had to get out of the sport right before that. Not completely out of the sport. I played at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah,
yeah.
Saw that.
New Jersey.
Yeah. I have it tilted weird, so I didn't know if you could see it or not.
Yeah, go Vols.
Still trying to make it work down there,
Well, yeah. College paintball went away, came back, and those guys are awesome. Yeah, so played a little bit, the college paintball, but I didn't play a lot of tournaments other than that. So, kind of fizzled out with it, and then took a break even more after that to get a career started. Went to grad school, worked for a year, but then once I got some income, I got back into it. I always knew I wanted to get back into it, and started back with Postal, and then eventually got onto the most recent iteration of CEP for a couple years in semi-pro before they disbanded. Some of the main guys went to the Latin Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I was just going to some tryouts wherever I could, and uh, was going to an ML Kings and Russian Legion tryout in Florida. This was 2022.
Okay.
Made it back for a second weekend of that.
Nice.
And at that weekend, Wrecking Crew was also there. They were doing their annual Florida practice where they would, go to a warmer climate, have Marcelo there. A couple other guys were trying out for them. And the tryout squad for the ML Kings was playing against the Kings, Legion, and Wrecking Crew. And didn't end up making the Kings, but through some of the guys that I've met, Chris Dahl, Colton's dad, he stuck up for me. And, they needed another player and got invited to go on Wrecking Crew for their D2 year. And then the last couple of years of semi-pro been there.
Awesome. That's really kind of serendipitous that in a way it stems from a trip to New York in Niagara Falls, right?
I did not even think about that.
So, and here you are on New York Wrecking Crew.
Yeah. Wow. Serendipity was a word I was thinking of when I was kind of thinking this story earlier. Yeah, absolutely.
So what kept you going, man? Because it sounds like you had a lot of what a lot of people would consider setbacks, right? Like things just didn't go the way. You had to take the hard road. So what in you made you keep going?
Yeah, good question. I think I loved paintball so much, even before those setbacks, that having the setbacks didn't really steer me away from it. A lot of guys probably go through similar situations as I did. I lost my train of thought there. I think it's because the coming back from the setbacks happened fast enough to where I didn't completely lose my motivation for it.
Okay.
To where I saw that they worked, and that kind of stills your response to that. To where when it happens again, you try a little bit harder and are able to overcome even bigger setbacks along down the road. So I think I've just been like training myself, not knowing to be able to do that.
Okay. Nice. And you've mentioned the fitness, your strength and conditioning coach at a high school. Sounds like it kind of went hand in hand with paintball.
Mm-hmm.
What about fitness like just drew you in that much?
It's the fact that it is like a scientific or biological law that if you work at it, you see results. Not everything in life is like that. There's luck to it, or there's people that have more talent or that know more people that get results for things. Sometimes life isn't fair, but with strength training, with fitness, trying to improve your body, it's like it has to happen as long as you're doing the things to make it happen. So I kind of like you're talking about, what drives me is just seeing those successes give you more motivation.
Okay.
Yeah. That is like what I try to get my students to see too, because working out is hard. It's hard to hold that discipline and keep going. But once you do see some results, then you're a little bit more bought into it.
Yeah.
Well,
and you're the fitness professional, so just stop me if I'm incorrect, but I think it's harder for younger guys to see it just because like 30 days, 60 days is a long time for an 18-year-old kid. But for like an adult, mid 20s, it's not that long, and you'll see results in that time frame, like noticeable as results, whatever you start doing.
Yeah. I think you probably notice the results within 3 months, a little bit. You'll see your strength gains even before that, but like looking at yourself in the mirror, something like that. Within 3 months, you'll be able to see it. And what you're talking about is the older you get, the more you have that perspective. I would never think I'd still be like trying to achieve like the pro dream at 34. Back then, I thought it was like I had needed to make it in the next 5 years or it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Kind of thing,
That was the narrative they were saying for a really long time, right? Like 34, people were old men and hanging it up. And then some of those old men didn't hang it up and they're still going. So, and then like you got Mark Johnson, who made it pro in his 40s, right? Some of the Canes guys are older guys. Like it's really about how you take care of yourself.
Yeah. And I think, when the game changed from sideline coaching, teamwork became such a huge aspect. Experience, of course, too, but teamwork, I think, is one of the reasons I love paintball, because it's, like working together with people wasn't necessarily a strong suit of mine, but, seeing that that's like the biggest thing that you can work on to improve your paintball game as a team, it got me to like really look to see how can I do that better. Most of the time you lose a paintball tournament, And one of the biggest things that you look back on as why you lost is like maybe we didn't have the communication. We weren't communicating well. Yeah, so it's a team game, and if you've got the experience, and yeah, it's not as athletic dominant and technical skill dominant as maybe it used to be. Although those are still very important at the highest level.
Yeah. Well, I think it's technical from like a snap shooting laning perspective more so. Physically, it's not as, there's not 15 bunkers on the field and that's it. So you don't have these huge gaps you have to blow through in order to make the
True.
snake, right? Which, as much as I want the X back, I do appreciate having more bunkers. I think we can scale it back a little bit now, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Even with those huge gaps, like you put one person in, if they do a good job of switching off with another teammate, then like you're gonna run right into their gun too. So
Yeah.
it's I think teamwork is one of the most important parts, no matter, kind of what you're talking about with the big field where you can't really see as much or because the bunkers are everywhere or bigger gaps.
Yeah. How was you guys got invited to do the Pro 3v3 at World Cup. How was that experience?
So I actually, most of the team stayed through from the layout week through the tournament.
Okay.
I actually had to go back to work a couple days, just, working in the school system. I don't get to choose my days off.
Boo work.
And since that was a last minute thing, us going to play that, I didn't end up getting back to
Okay, time.
participate. But the guys did great. I mean, they didn't win, but they put up a good fight against some good teams, and they were exciting to watch too. It wasn't just like the play the back three bunkers.
Yeah.
They were running to the snake, crawling all the way down.
Yeah.
Surprising people.
It was a good show. Outside of like practice footage, that's the first time the general public's gotten to see Wrecking Crew go against pro teams. And I think the team as a whole did pretty well.
Yeah. And it set the tone for the rest of our tournament.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be doing the 3-on-3s again this next year too, in the pro league. So maybe we'll be playing at the Raymond James Stadium in Tampa. 3-on-3.
That would be awesome.
Cool.
So yeah, is that definite yet, or are they waiting on the guys in the pro division to say yes or no to it? Do you know?
From what I heard, part of the deal with us, going to play at World Cup was that we'd be locked in for the next season.
Okay, nice.
I think that's how it works. Who knows?
Okay. Oh, what conference were you guys in?
We were on the Western for that one, but I think I do remember saying we'd be moved to the Eastern for this coming year.
Cool. That makes sense, right? New York Wrecking Crew should be in the Eastern Conference. A little weird to have you guys as a West Coast team.
Yeah, we'll see if some of these other teams like Legion, they play out of Florida mainly, so they'd be East Coast, right? I wonder where the Midwest team, like Chicago Aftershock, I think they're kind of Florida. I don't know. Well, who knows?
I think they're Florida based, but who knows where they're actually from?
There's all these teams that are based out of different places, and their team actually says they are.
So your closest teammate's like 3 hours away, right?
Yeah, we're pretty spread out.
So
it's New York Wrecking Crew, and our owner's from New York.
Oh.
We've got one guy from New York and another one from, I guess, upstate New York.
Okay.
A couple guys from Philadelphia, 3 guys from Ohio. I'm in Tennessee. Tommy's in North Carolina. And then Ben is in Indiana. And Alex is all the way in Las Vegas.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize he was that far. At least it's a good hub city, right? Like everywhere flies to Vegas.
Yeah, they had the Vegas Golden Misfits that he played for, and Marcelo was kind of helping them, similar to how he's helping us. It was it fit in well.
So let's get into the main event of a World Cup, I guess. You guys kind of had this monkey on your back all year.
True.
How did it feel going into the event?
Yeah, kind of like you're saying, a monkey on our back, but I don't think we felt that. It wasn't like tangible to us.
Okay.
Though we did know that we had just finished the worst we'd ever finished, worst in Wrecking Crew history. We only won one match in Texas, and it had been over a year since we won a match now, and that's never happened as far as I know in Wrecking Crew. But yeah, like I said, I don't think that was tangible to us. I think we just came in, ready to take the lessons that we learned from all of the quarterfinals losses we had a streak of, the lessons that we took in Ohio from getting beat by the Jesters in the semis, and our performance in Texas. And I think there's evidence of, cases where similar things happened at World Cup that maybe would have been failures for us again, if we did the same things, but we practiced learning from our mistakes in those. And I think it paid off. We rose to the occasion in those situations that could have sunk us.
Yeah. You guys, from an outside perspective, you just looked way more locked in. Like it's really a untangible thing. Like obviously you guys are all like some of the best fundamentally, right? Especially when you're talking about the semi-pro division. But it seemed from the live stream that you guys had the untangible thing had locked in with you for some reason.
Yeah, we've got a ton of talent on the team, but we kind of wanted to get back to a style of play that had worked for us in the past, and we had this little um, gimmick or motto. We wanted to see how few times we could hit the buzzer on the other team's start box. How many times we actually had to do that and
Okay.
still win the tournament. And we actually only had to do it twice.
Nice.
We hit the buzzer one time to when we were down against the Jesters. We hit it with 1 second left because Tommy won a one-on-one to send us to overtime. And then I think we hit it one other time in the prelims. Don't remember why, but yeah, because we leaned on our assets, which was break shooting. Our snake side is always athletic and smart aggression. The D side, we had some of our most talented guys over there that gun fought people and won or made sneaky moves to catch somebody slipping. And then once we had the advantage, we just kind of stayed controlled and let the other team towel. Earlier in practice on that layout and earlier in the event, we felt like we needed to get up into the center. And the center was good to watch over your snake player and play off of him. But if you didn't need to score a point, then it was kind of a vulnerable place to be. And earlier in the event, we were trying to get Tommy, who was playing our back center a lot, we were trying to get him up in the middle. And his instincts he felt more comfortable based on the situation a lot of times to stay in the back center. And that ended up paying off for us because it connected us on the field. He was a great communicator in that and kept us calm, kept us controlled, and we survived. And just, once we got into spots where we had the advantage or had a body advantage, we played smarter than we had in other events and, didn't do anything stupid. We just hung on and stayed in control and made them towel.
So outside of this World Cup win, what's been your favorite memory with Wrecking Crew?
Outside of this one, well, I guess it's the other World Cup we won back in Division 2. Yeah, I guess this recent one, since it's at the semi-pro level, it's it's a bigger, higher end target. But that was our first World Cup win. It was my first World Cup win. I don't remember if the team had won in Division 3 or another division before that, but
I think they definitely won. I can't remember if they had won a world.
yeah. I don't think so, actually, because I think their first NXL season was D3, and they didn't win World Cup in D3. So that was our favorite one. My family was there, which made it even more special for me. My wife and my mom and dad. Man, that was cool because my wife is supportive, but it's taken a while to get there with all the travel that I do. Having her there to where she can see how big that is and how much that means to us in the moment. And then it actually happens where we win, being able to go find her afterwards. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
It's awesome.
And my parents as well. There was a lot of times when I would get challenged with like my focus, like what's going to happen if we lose this match or something. And I would just like remind myself that my family was there and that, they probably aren't going to come and see this happen again. It might not ever happen again. So just like stay focused and whatever in the moment is important.
Nice. You also decided to start going out to the West Coast to play with Grind City.
Yeah. All right.
So how did that come about, and how have you enjoyed your time on the West Coast?
Yeah. So that was just this past year that I've was just looking for some more opportunities to play tournaments just to get more experience. Our other Wrecking Crew guys were on the Brawlers, right? Alex, Ben, Colton got on the Brawlers for this year, and then even Aiden at this last one. They were kind of full, but I kind of made a post that said I was looking for a spot, and Grind City got back to me pretty quick. And they have a little bit of a reputation coming from like a lot of the Mutiny guys, but I think they're awesome. They're really fun to play with. Thanks to J-Mac for allowing me to jump in with you guys, and he does a lot, for the team, and it's been fun playing on Grind City. With Wrecking Crew, the role I feel is a little bit more of a quarterback or like a job guy, containment guy, and a lot of our other guys are attackers. But on Grind City, I get to kind of let go and just play.
Okay.
So it's a nice change of pace.
Nice.
We haven't done extremely well, but yeah, we did all right.
Yeah, done poorly. I mean, got a third, a fifth. I guess you
That
got
team
to
has a lot of potential. Every time we go to those events, we could. I mean, the roster's great, depending on which event and who shows up. But we've always got a good roster and a chance to go and win it. It's just kind of, it is. We don't practice together on that team,
Yeah.
but we can get away with that because it's a blind layout.
Yeah. So maybe it's comparing apples to oranges, but how is the Premier League out there versus the Semi-Pro League in the NXL?
Yeah, I think semi-pro is by far more difficult.
Okay.
And maybe it's just because they get to practice on the field layout that teams, like when you compete in semi-pro, it feels like they're on their game more, or they have the field more figured out. Yeah, I guess technical skills. I still feel like NXL is a little bit harder in semi-pro
Okay.
than areas.
All right.
Just personally, but
It's fair enough.
But there's been teams that have proved otherwise too. There's teams that are really good NXL teams that have gone over there and haven't won easily, or if at all.
Well, and back in the day when Trauma was still coming up and they went on their run in the MPPL, like some of those guys would still play the CFOA and they weren't doing as well in the CFOA 5-man as they were at 10-man. It's just, different leagues, different things. Obviously that's two different formats, but the blind layout's a big thing, right? Like you aren't going to be as dialed in on shots because you're learning the shots.
Right. And, with NXLs, it's normally that team is together for the whole year. They've got a history of being together. I'm not really sure how the West Coast teams are, but like for Grind City, we were kind of a little bit more thrown together. And I think some other teams are with that too, or they get pro players to guest with them. So it's, some of that teamwork might not be there because of the chemistry or just, experience with that team.
Yeah. So do any of the kids at school know you play paintball? And what do they think about it?
Yeah, the kids know. Some of them, they always try to challenge me.
Okay.
They'd be like, I'd be better than you at paintball. I'm good at video games. I can do this. Yeah, there was one time it was cool. The baseball team at that time was kind of one of my favorite groups to work with. They worked the hardest. They knew that at University of Tennessee, I won a national championship. They actually, some of them had watched the video of that match that they're still on YouTube. One day it was a off-season practice in the morning, like 6 a.m. And because it was kind of in the right after New Year's, some college players that used to play for that high school were back and they were training with the team. The coach said, this rack, this weightlifting station right here is reserved for national champions because that player just won a national champion with his baseball team. And all my baseball players are like, Coach Rhudy, that's your rack. Go over there and lift.
That's awesome. How was the college paintball experience for you?
You mentioned memories like winning World Cup with Wrecking Crew, and then our D2 win with Wrecking Crew was my next best memory, and the national championship with the University of Tennessee would be after that. You win one of those, and it's kind of almost comparable to winning a World Cup.
Okay.
This was back in 2011, and it's a lot more broad. Like the team you would have, it wouldn't be as deep as like an NXL roster would be. Like some of the guys we'd play against were pros, like Chris Tregarthen that has played on the Ironman recently, Corey Bornstein that played with Infamous at one point. Cal State Long Beach, who we played in the finals, had 2 pros on their team, but then further down their depth chart or to fill out their 5 on the field, you wouldn't have such an experienced player. Our guys were a little bit more similar. We'd be like D3 or D2 level players, but most college teams were pretty broad on the experience level, which it just added a little bit to it. It made it more fun. And the competition was still high. Yeah, and those tournaments were put on really well. It was kind of hyped up. Yeah, cool to do something like that for your alma mater. It's makes you feel a part of the school for sure.
Nice. And that's back when it was on Fox Sports, wasn't it? Was that during your time?
Yeah. Laura Rutledge was actually, she's like made it big, and she's always sideline broadcasting on ESPN games, and she was broadcasting on college paintball.
On your college paintball games.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
So what are you guys, and have you guys as a unit started talking about next year?
Yeah, we had a meeting, a Zoom meeting last night. Yeah, talking about what we're gonna do, who's gonna stay, things like that. We're interested in looking for a pro spot. There's been a couple that have already been purchased at this point, I think, but we're interested in that if the right deal comes along. I would say expectations are to be back in semi-pro again, but with mostly all the same guys.
Okay.
Like we've won 30% of the semi-pro events we played at this point, but we lack consistency. So that's going to be the focus this coming year. And, no matter what happens where we're playing, we need to improve our consistency.
So that's the goal, just be more consistent at this
Yeah.
point. Which I mean, Hurricanes, when they won their pro spot, didn't win an event that year, right? They were just the most consistent team. Now,
They did win a World Cup the year before.
yeah, and the COVID year, right, where no one got to move up or move down. I do like mentioning that because it's not like they didn't win a semi-pro event. They just didn't win the one that they moved up in. So, and then, Bear Ridge, obviously super consistent team this year. They did win one, but, the consistency is just kind of like where you got to be.
Yeah. Fifth place is their worst.
And
to be more consistent, I don't think it's anything else that you work on other than just, the things you would work on to get better, even if you weren't, well at some events. You're just always trying to find what you can do to get better at individually and as a team. And just through months or years of trial and error working at those things, then you develop, a more rounded team or more rounded individual skills that do provide that consistency.
nice. So off-season time, you seem like a goal-oriented guy. What are the goals for the off-season, man?
Goals for the off season. Let me say this is like non-paintball, but I think it relates to, trying to explain what you should do across the year. Like let's say back in before we were very civilized, in the summer months, you would be like working really hard. Like you'd be planting your crops, the days would be long. So like spending a lot of time doing work. And for paintball, if you look at the summer months, that's like, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're working. We're in the middle of our season. We're doing everything we can to be better. In the autumn, it's kind of like harvest time. We just had Thanksgiving to, reap the rewards of the work that, you might have done growing crops back in the day. For paintball, the autumn is where World Cup falls. So it's like harvest for us is execution, right? Taking the work you did from the summer and getting the rewards from that, if you execute. And then in the winter, which is our off season, it's time for rest. The days are shorter to where like back in the day, like you couldn't keep working, it forced you to rest. And so you can come back renewed, forces you to spend more mental time, working on, figuring out things that you need to do better, evaluating, resetting your goals, identifying problems that kept you from your results before and brainstorming solutions. So I think that's a big part of the off season for me.
Okay.
But then there's always like trying to improve yourself physically, improve yourself in other ways than you're normally working throughout the season.
Okay.
Like we talked about getting faster. One of my big goals is making sure that my body's resilient, like rehabbing some injuries that had me banged up, which has been going pretty well, and get back to the point to where I can really train hard again. And then also, focusing on your fundamentals. You're focused on your fundamentals all through the year, but it's a good time for, changing a little bit of, like, for example, break shooting. If you practice break shooting often enough, then you can kind of identify like what are some small things I could do to improve this, like like where your hands are positioned, the angle you're coming at that. It's kind of risky to tweak that during the season,
Yeah.
but the off season is kind of a good time to like revamp your technique on things, so to speak.
So even if it's like something as small as like thumb placement, right?
Yeah, thumb placement. One of the things I noticed when I was break shooting was if my pecs weren't engaged, then when I pulled up and those muscles tensed, like it would almost like
It's like
throw the tank off my body.
pop it off a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess a little bit exaggerated how I'm going over this, but yeah, like the more I think about making sure everything's tense and I flex my pec, then that doesn't happen. So it's more consistent.
Yeah.
Took some practice.
I'd never thought of that, but I mean, going from a relaxed muscle to a tense muscle it's going to move that gun, and that little
Yeah.
bit makes a big difference when
Yeah.
it's going across that field. So,
Yeah. Especially with how big our pecs are,
oh yeah, it's all I train. So, what's some of your favorite like mobility stuff to do, or
Okay.
recovery? Well, let's do mobility, then we'll touch on recovery, I guess.
Okay. Mobility, like getting more flexible to get into positions that you'd need for paintball, right?
Yeah.
Since I am like a weightlifting coach, I mean, I see the point of stretching and, like they say, dynamic stretching before you work out, static stretching after, but doing movements that you're going to do, like when you've even got heavy weight on there, as long as you're going through full range of motion on things, then you're going to be working on your mobility or, like getting into positions that aren't just like a normal like squat, like up and down, like changing the planes to where you're stepping out to the side, rotating, going into a deep range of motion with that. Things like that are how you work on your mobility, hitting all those different areas, finding as many different spots as you can find that are tight, and then spending time there until you build that strength. A lot of mobility isn't just like lack of flexibility, it's lack of your body being strong and comfortable in that position, or else it's going to try to keep you from going there.
Yeah.
Right? People do like the toe touch to stretch their hamstrings and they feel like their hamstrings are tight. But really, your hamstrings are probably weak. And if you strengthen your hamstrings, then they're going to allow you to go into those deeper ranges of motion. And now they feel, since they're stronger in that range of motion, they feel more comfortable. They allow you to get deeper into positions like that.
I want to touch on you saying full range of motion because I know a lot of guys in the gym that will not do full range of motion. And from my understanding is that's super important to get the most out of it.
Well, it's just an ego thing, like if you don't go full range of motion, you're probably going to be able to do more weight. And there's so much ego in weightlifting that, people are trying to look good and, not feel weak. So they don't go all the way down and then they don't get the full benefit. But actually, there is some benefit to not doing full range of motion too.
Okay.
It's not like you have to go full range of motion all the time, but you should have a mix of everything. Going full range of motion sometimes with some weight, and then, going really heavy and not going full range of motion.
Yeah.
That's one of the exercises I work on to get faster is like not a full depth squat, but a squat just to the depth to where like your knee angle, your hip angle is going to be when you're sprinting.
Okay.
It's a little bit of a larger angle. You kind of more like you're standing and just barely bent in those positions. If you load that up a lot, then yeah, that can help your sprint speed.
All right. But safely, right? Don't just throw on a ton of weight. Let it build up.
Absolutely. I mean, you've always got to do what you're prepared to do.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, there's no bad exercises. It's just exercises that you're prepared to do or exercises that you're not prepared to do. Just walking upstairs is easy for me. It's easy for most people. But for somebody that's like, elderly and, got some things going on, walking up the stairs is unsafe. Again, it's just got to be prepared for whatever you're doing. But if you are prepared, then you can start to push it.
Yeah. I actually knew a personal trainer who was like his clientele was elderly people and making sure they could just sit down and step up,
Yep. Been there.
What about recovery? What's some of your favorite things for recovery?
Well, sleep and nutrition, those are kind of the basic things. It's not nothing special about that. But if you're not getting quality sleep, then that's when your body is actually recovering there. That's the time when your muscles are being rebuilt. If you're not getting nutrition, if you're not getting enough protein, vitamins and minerals, then there's no fuel to recover. So you got to have that in first. I like movement for recovery. Like let's say I've got an injury in my shoulder, then just like letting it rest is going to heal, eventually. And doing too much movement or too intense movement is going to decrease the healing. But a little bit of movement that's pain-free, that gets that blood flow to the area is what you need. And then as you heal, you just get more movement. It's go a little bit more intense and build that strength over time. Just recovery from like general fatigue. Talk about people going into cold plunges and things. Yeah, I think that works. I think it makes you feel better. I don't know. I'm just kind of like a simple guy when it
That's
comes
fine.
to that. It's like let your body do what it's meant to do. Let it recover on its own, you know? And let's say you're sore the next day, you just get a good warm up and work through it. Train again, get it going again.
Oh, yeah.
Did I cover what you meant there?
Yeah, it was. I wasn't looking for any particular answer or special red light therapy or anything like that. I was just generally curious, and I think that's a great answer. Just
Yeah.
general movement, getting blood flow to the area, as long as you aren't
Yeah.
hurting it, right? That's I think nowadays people are looking for the magic pill. I gotta sit in the sauna for 15 minutes with the red light therapy and gotta have my creatine every day, and all that stuff's great, right? But that's a small percentage of just taking care of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, any fitness questions you have, just get on TikTok and scroll a few pages. You'll find somebody that's talking about that. But whether it's actually like a quick fix or a gimmick, like really getting good at things, including fitness or recovery, just comes down to being consistent. Doing the simple things that you don't really need to ask somebody what works. You just kind of listen to your body and do what it tells you to. And over time, you're going to improve. And if you're listening to your body, then you learn more about it. It's kind of like my lifelong mission, other than paintball, is learning more about my body.
Nice. Early on, we talked about like traveling to find your people, right? So how did you know, or when did you know Wrecking Crew was like your team, your people?
After I got on the team, I it was kind of a risk to join, but I knew that they were a really good program. So even taking a step back from semi-pro to D2 was taking a step forward in what I knew, um, how strong the program was because of the sacrifices they make. Like, what other program hires Marcelo or hires another coach to fly across the country? You know, talk about the long-term consistent improvements is what it takes to do that investment. I don't know how else to put it, but yeah, just it's a very serious program because they expect the best, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get there, and everybody's on the same page with it. So once I got on the team, the guys are all super cool, so I felt at home with that. I actually wasn't playing really good right when was my first couple of practices with them, but eventually things clicked. And yeah, I guess just like we said, going back to the main thing, which is how much they care about the game and getting better, and that relates to me. So you're going to have so much relatability.
Mhm.
You're going to fit in with those guys.
When's the first time you guys will see each other again, like as a group?
Yeah, I'll probably go and see Tommy at PBC sometime here soon, if not for the 10-man. But we typically have a practice in January,
Okay.
where we go to Florida or somewhere warm and get Marcelo down there. So January, and then it'll be probably 3 weeks before the first event will be the next time we get together. Maybe another one in between there. Rob, our owner, actually sent out our practice schedule recently, but I haven't had time to see when those actually fall.
Fair enough. Let's do a couple of our just like quick shot questions.
Sure.
No pun intended.
Quick shot.
Quick shot. So the unicorn marker that you either looking to get, or one that you'll never sell, or one that you've sold and regret selling.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Quick shot, just by the way, is where we practice. That's our
Yeah.
that's our non-layout practice. Those guys that thanks to Don, by the way, and Filthy. A lot of those teams, the Filthy teams, are doing really well in divisional, and some of my Wrecking Crew teammates spend a lot of time coaching them. So that's a great field to play at if you're in the area, and they've done a lot for us. So thank you, Quick Shot. I don't really think I have a marker that got away and that I'd like to get back. I just don't think I think of gear that way.
Fair enough.
It's kind of like my cars. Like, I don't have a new car. I just drive whatever drives me and gets me there, and I drive it until it breaks down, and then I, don't get a car payment or
Mhm.
get a loan to get a new car. I just get another used car and drive it as far as it can take me. But
That's what
there
I
is
do.
like, yeah, I've got an ice though, a Lux Ice that I bought when I first got back into the game in 2018. I shot that thing a few weeks ago, like doing some drills before World Cup, because my Planet Eclipse guns were in Florida already with the team. Yeah, roll back some memories. That thing shoots laser beams. Who knows, with possibility of leagues going back to 4 pods, things like the ice, which was, not very air efficient, but just shot super smooth. Those things might come back into style. And a lot of the guns that I've had recently, I have kept. I don't have one that's gotten away just because. I mean, I was never into buying and selling gear. Probably got a bunch of those guns just right over there.
Nice. All right.
A lot of JT equipment that I've recently found.
Yeah.
Just from
Rediscovered.
I rediscovered in parents' basement. And some other guns like I've got this thing I'm doing right now. Trying to give away my guns to my groomsmen
Okay.
that all used to play with me. Like we lived in a house together while I was at UT, and they don't play anymore. But just in case they want to get back out there, and just as like a late, groomsman gift, I want to give each one of them a gun from recent years. Working my way through that.
Like that. Well, you brought it up. What do you think about the possibility of going to 4 pods?
I think it's cool. I've played a 4-pod tournament before, the Astra tournament.
Okay, yeah.
CEP played that. It was kind of just like a test event. Meter Ninos was putting that together, and it didn't play that much different. I've never played in Europe where they do it, but at this one, maybe it was a field layout. I think field layouts have they govern a lot of the style of paintball that's being played on it. But I never got to the point where I didn't have any pods.
Okay.
It just played fast enough, and it was a blind layout. That's got to have that's got to go into it as well, because the more you play on a field, the slower things can get.
Mm-hmm.
I do wish that pros have 4 pods, and maybe semi-pros are going to have 4 pods, and then I think the rest of the divisionals are going to have unlimited amounts. I think that's kind of a drawback, because one of the best things about our sport is how divisional teams can play against pro teams.
Yeah.
And if the game is different for pro teams than divisional teams, then those pro teams maybe aren't going to give them that chance. Or the divisional teams would have to play with a different style. I think instead, why don't you just give the pros 4 pods, maybe semi-pros 5 pods or 6 pods, and kind of graduate it back? That would even make things more even when you're playing a different divisional team.
Yeah.
It would equal things out a little bit.
They got a little bit more, which would hopefully equal more time to figure it out, right?
Yeah, and they can just more time to figure it out. They can just shoot more. So more chance of hitting the other team.
Do you feel like the 4 pods, did it make it faster? Or do you feel like it's more layout dependent?
As far as how fast the game's going to go? Yeah. I mean, I think 4 pods isn't that many. So it's going to, teams are going to shoot less just because they can only shoot 4. But hopefully fields get designed a little bit better. I mean, they've been doing a pretty good job with it. But I think, to make the game funner, to make it more exciting, better to watch, I think it does come down to the field layouts. And one thing I think they need to do is have smaller bunkers back in the backfield, especially. As you get closer to the 50s, you need bigger bunkers, more, you need some room to survive in there if you're going to take the risk to get up there. And then some reward when you get there, because people can still hide if there's mini walls or Doritos in the backfield. Why would you take that risk of going through those zones to get up there? Back in the day, it felt like there was a lot more getting pinched out than there is nowadays.
I agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, it seems like when I first started, that's how I would get shot all the time. And now it's like, they can always hide. They can always get away from it. I mean, it still happens sometimes, but I think people get pinched out a lot less. And because those spots that are closer to the 50s, either you can't see people that you would be able to shoot because there's giant bricks blocking you, or bunkers are just kind of, there's some that are just wider and give you more space to live.
Yeah.
That speeds the game up. Just make some of the bunkers smaller.
Well, and I think the last couple layouts, to me, the snake hasn't been that rewarding as it has been traditionally, right? I think it was World Cup where you could get to the 50 and still not see a good 25% of the field, where I feel like traditionally, if you got to the 50, you pretty much had everyone, especially if you pushed past the 40, past the 50 into their 45, it was super rewarding. And now you're just getting a different set to look at, right? I don't know, that's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, that is how it felt. And maybe it's because there's these, huge bunkers that are blocking a bunch of shots. I don't know. If you're let's say, we were talking about how some of the home players would be the bigger guys, or it gives them more pressure to get out of the home if it's a smaller bunker.
Yeah. I'd really like to see what they got rid of two of the big wedges, right? For the new starfish thing.
That's what I've heard.
I'd really like to see other big brick go because there's four big bricks, two big wedges, right?
2 bricks, 4 wedges
Yeah.
last year.
Okay. No. Just other set of those two and switch them out for, a small Mayan or something. Still have bunkers and places to move, but
Mhm.
see a little bit more
Yeah,
of the field.
yeah, that plus sign, I don't know how tall it's gonna be, but it's gonna be another bunker where you can just kinda hide out and survive in there. And I think they should have some taller bunkers too, like the cans or the Mayans that actually block shots off break. Because if like even the bricks, like this last layout or the wedges, you can shoot over them and drop it where you want it.
Yeah.
Even pins, like people shoot over pins off the break. If you got like those tall bunkers like Mayans or cans that are making those quick shots not so easy, or it'll create some more variation in where you can go off the break. I think that'll be a little bit more fun and exciting to watch. Yeah, some taller bunkers that actually block shots, but then they don't block so much of the cross field action later in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that idea.
Stand the wedges up more often, maybe.
Yeah, I will say I've liked all the layouts where they're standing up.
And then they got to figure out a way to, have less bounce shots on the field.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is to that. And it's still cool. Bounce shots are cool to use, but when there's so many of them,
Yeah, it's a little ridiculous, right? Like it's a neat thing that you can figure that out, but there's just a ton. And I from a very basic player standpoint, I hate shooting over something to get a kill and not seeing the kill, right? And I
Mhm.
hate shooting a bounce shot to get a kill. Now, I'm gonna do it if that's what I gotta do to win. But from a fulfillment standpoint, I want to see that paintball break on the player, right?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Or know where they are. You're talking about not having the vision on them. If you don't know where they are, you don't know if you can still shoot there or if you need to shoot like, where they possibly could be and catch you rapping.
Yeah.
Vision is a huge part of paintball. And
Yeah, and it's really frustrating when you can't see like 75% of the field. You know, I
somebody can. You
you
can always
can.
find somebody on the field or some place where you can
Mm.
see. And that's important to get to those spots off the break so that when you are in those initial first few seconds after the game, you have more information than the other team.
So I won't keep you much longer, but give us some advice for like the D4 guys, the D5 guys. What's something you think those guys can like across that division really improve gameplay wise?
Yeah. I mean, we kind of have been talking about teamwork and communication, and we just mentioned vision off the break. I do some team clinics every now and then with some teams around here. And that's kind of what I start with is learning how to control the field, like learning how to contain, never losing track of where the widest guy is on the other team. I don't, that might be like more of a D5 thing than a D4 thing, but sometimes you can't just have one guy that's supposed to watch one side of the field and protect, be the defense over there. If it's that important, then sometimes you got to put two guys on the job or know when you can switch with a guy. So we'll talk about, kind of a code system where you pass off who's containing and who's got eyes on the widest guy. I think that's one thing the teams could put in is, just more prioritization on containing the widest guy on each side of the field, because if they know where that guy is, then nobody is getting surprised.
Yeah.
I think, lower divisionals, that's how a lot of people get shot is they're like, I didn't know that guy got there, or he wasn't playing like he was there, something like that. But if you always know where the widest guy is on either side of the field, then that's almost like 80% of what governs your decisions playing paintball. Tells you how you need to be in your bunker, tells you where to look. Of course, everything else is so important too, but I think that is like the biggest part of paintball is knowing where the widest guy is on both sides.
I also like that you mentioned learning to switch off with someone, right? Like the zone or
Mhm.
whatever. I think that's something uh the D4, D5 guys really struggle with is learning that communication piece right there, right? Of, hey, I'm doing this job. I need you to take over this job so I can either advance up the field or, handle this other situation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just need some codes. You need like a system to be able to do that, and a lot of people probably won't pass off the job or talk about that job just because it takes so long to kind of talk about it sometimes. And, if you have a code for it, it makes things more efficient.
Yeah.
You know, higher likelihood that that job is going to get done. He's going to hear the code, know what his reaction needs to be, and make that reaction. Versus if that's not systematized already and kind of practice, then it takes a lot more effort, and then it's probably not going to get done.
Absolutely. Well, man, you've let me keep you for over an hour, so thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Love talking paintball. Probably the only reason I don't talk about paintball and even more is because it's hard to find people that want to talk about paintball as much as we do. Probably.
Tell you what, we'll have you back on throughout the season, and we'll talk more paintball then.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Shout out the sponsors before we go, and yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we got GI for paint. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but I think like last year, a couple years ago, no matter what paint you're using, you had to throw it at something hard to get it to break. And this year, the paint has been so brittle. Like, I don't know if other companies are doing that too, but GI's paint has been really, really brittle, and we got to take care of it. But it's been awesome. It shoots really straight, goes through the Planet Eclipse R5 perfectly. That thing works with whatever paint, and it always works. I love my R5. JT, I don't think people talk about enough how much of an advantage it is to be able to project your voice like you can in a JT mask versus other masks. You really just you can put it out there. Carbon, the underlayer bottoms change the game. 34-year-old never feels so free and fast running around in those things as he used to in knee pads back when I was younger even. Let's see who else we got. Flo, our captain, young Stevie, his brand, his apparel brand, allows us to express ourselves. I think a lot of paintball players, would like his brand as well. Filthy Streetwear, Don from Quick Shot. He provided us with pants this year, and he does a lot more to support us too. So thanks, Don. Yeah, I think that's the main sponsors there.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, I just need you to hang out for just a second longer, but everyone else, we'll see you next time on the Planet Paintball podcast. All right.
Thanks for tuning in to the Planet Paintball podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Whether you're out there grinding in the divisional pits or chasing dreams on the pro stage, remember, it's all about the passion, the hustle, and the love for the sport. Shout out to 1023 Sportswear for sponsoring the show. Don't forget to use code PlanetPaintball at checkout for 20% off your order. Gear up, save big. Until next time, keep grinding, keep growing, and we'll see you back here on the Planet Paintball podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to today's show of the Planet Paintball podcast. Remember, use code Planet Paintball for 20% off your orders from 1023 Sportswear. Shout out to Green Goat, Southwest Paintball, Josh Conley Tattoos, and Andy's Taco Shop. And remember, keep growing, keep grinding, and we'll see you next time on the Planet Paintball podcast, where we probe the divisional pits so you don't have to.